Good morning and welcome back to the Thought of the Day. This week we are looking at the book of Malachi. If you weren't here yesterday, we read through the whole book. So if you didn't catch that, then I would suggest you go back and catch it. Today we are going to be looking at some of chapter 1 in a bit more depth, particularly looking at God's rebuke of the kind of sacrifices that the priests were making from verse 6 more or less to the end. There's a couple of things that I think it's worth sharing from this section of the book. Obviously in the Old Testament the priests were the only ones who were allowed to go into the tabernacle originally, and then the temple when it's built and then rebuilt. The book of Malachi, this comes after the temple is rebuilt, when those who are exiled return and they rebuild the temple, and the laws of Moses for sacrifices and the altar and all that kind of stuff are retold. But then time has gone by, and the priests who are now in charge are become a bit lax with following the rules as they should, and they're allowing people to offer blind animals, lame animals for the sacrifices, and they're complaining that it's a burden to do the sacrifices and do the things they have to do in the temple. But today there is no intermediary between us and God in the way there was at the time. So the priests, they would receive the sacrifices from the people, they would take them into the altar and they would present them to God. Whereas today we don't really have that. In Romans, Paul tells us that our life should be the living sacrifice, and Jesus is the ultimate sacrifice for sin. It's obviously there are different sacrifices: the sacrifice of atonement, and the sacrifices of thanksgiving and first fruits and that kind of thing. And so at this time, the fact that the priests are offering the blind animals and diseased animals and all this kind of thing, it should be the best of the flock or the cattle or whatever it might be. That is what should be presented to God, not the leftovers, the blind, the disease that can't be used for anything else. And so today for us, when it comes to our lives and the sacrifices that we make for God, are we giving the best of ourselves? Are we putting time with God? Is that the first thing that goes into the schedule for our day? Or is it the last? Do we get to the end of the day and think, oh, I've got 20 minutes left before I go to bed, so I'll do my Bible study now? Or, oh, I haven't prayed yet today, so I'll just say a quick prayer. Are we giving our leftover time to God as the priest did? Or are we giving the best of our time or our money or our energy, whatever it is that we're giving over to God? Is it the best of it, or is it the leftovers? And then also, as I say, the priests in this time, Malachi's time, were the intermediary. They represented, they were the representatives of the people to God, but then they were also, to an extent, the representatives of God to the people. And so if they are accepting these diseased offerings, blind offerings, lame offerings, then through that act they are suggesting that God would accept them, that is good enough for God, that will do for God. And now today we are, as Christians, we are the chosen people of God, and we are God's representatives to those people who are not Christian yet, who don't yet follow Jesus. And so through our lives, the way that we live, the things that we say and do, Are we representing a true picture of God, or a picture of God for whom some stuff is all right, and you can do enough? It doesn't have to be the best. It doesn't have to be completely right. You can just let some things go. Is that the God that we represent? Or do we represent the God who wants the best of us and expects the best of us? And then one final thing they say, the priests say towards the end of chapter 1, in verse 13, what a burden to be at the Lord's table. Has worship and time with God become a burden for us? Or is it still something that we are pleased to do? Are we still in that place where we feel honoured and privileged to spend time with God and learn God's ways and try and apply God's ways to our lives? Or has time moved on? Has the metaphorical temple been rebuilt and the rules have been brought back in for a while now, and we're starting to become complacent and it's becoming a burden, and we do enough to get by, but it's not the best? Are we like the priests in Malachi's time, or are we more how Jesus would like us to live? That's chapter 1.